Hi, welcome to Knowledge Cosmic. I'm Ricky Bobby, and let's get this video started. Today's topic, I'm going to be talking about Captain America, Steve Rogers, and the first appearance he made into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Steve Rogers was born on July 4th, 1918, and growing up and everything, he was a small, weak, tiny person and always got bullied, but he had a huge heart and just always would not stop or stand down to anyone no matter what, like even if he was getting his butt kicked.
You just don't know when to give up, do you?
I can do this all day.
Growing up, he ended up meeting someone named Bucky Barnes, who they became best friends and very close while growing up in Brooklyn, New York, and they were very inseparable throughout both lives.
I'll move you to the end of the line, pal.
And then in World War II, Bucky was drafted and went through training and then got shipped over to Germany, but Steve Rogers really wanted to go to fight for the little guy, but even though he would go to the military like volunteer stations like many times, he would always put down the wrong saying he was from the wrong address and different places all over the country to try to get in, even though he was denied at least 5 times.
Sorry, son.
Look, just give me a chance.
You've been eligible on your asthma alone.
Is there anything you can do?
I'm doing it. I'm saving your life.
Then, when Steve and Bucky were on a date with 2 girls at the Stark Expo, Steve and Bucky were talking alone, and someone was listening to them who ended up being Dr. Erskine, the person who created the super soldier serum, the original one, and he ended up listening to them. So when Steve went and tried to enlist again, Dr. Erskine actually volunteered, had everybody leave Steve alone, and he went in and questioned Steve and let him sign up for the army and go to Camp Lehigh for training to possibly try to get into be given the super soldier serum. And while in training, Steve met Agent Peggy Carter, and also during training, even though the colonel wanted somebody else to go who was the top of the class with everything, the colonel actually threw a dummy grenade into the middle of the company that Steve was a part of while at basic training, and everybody ran away, jumped behind cars and walls and everything, and Steve ended up showing his true self by jumping on top of the dummy grenade, so that way he can get killed but everyone else would be fine, because that's just who he was. And after that, Dr. Erskine ended up picking Steve to receive the super soldier serum and being the first person to do so. And the night before the procedure, the 2 of them were talking in Steve's sleeping area, and he told him, Dr. Erskine told him that the serum amplifies everything that's already inside of a person. So good becomes great, bad becomes worse. And that a weak person who knows the value of strength and knows compassion will be able to become amazing, and somebody who's already strong, that is given the serum and knows strength and power his whole life or her whole life will become worse and abuse that power and everything. that's given to them, and we'll see something like that later on into the MCU for those starting out. And it's also kind of tied to back to Steve Rogers. But after he's given the soldier super soldier serum, Captain Rogers got out of the procedure, and Peggy Carter hilariously just walks up unscripted and like standing right in front of the new Steve, who's bigger, taller, stronger, just looks like one of those muscular like people like that were part of the Arnold Schwarzenegger things that would go and like show off their muscles and everything. She walked right up to him and like ended up like hurried up quickly, touched his chest, which was absolutely hilarious. And later on it was found out that she did that unscripted, just was kind of like, then Steve, after Dr. Erskine was killed by a Hydra agent that was sent there, and Steve chased him down, and the guy took a cyanide capsule, the senator actually made Steve Rogers to the rank of captain, but also had him go around with the USO tour to sell war bonds. Then he was getting tired of that, was overseas visiting soldiers at one of the camps, and he found out that his best friend Bucky Barnes and his entire unit were either killed or captured. So Steve Rogers had Peggy Carter get Howard Stark, who's the father of Tony Stark, and Howard and Peggy flew Steve behind enemy lines to pretty much the front door of the Hydra camp, and Steve jumped out, parachuted down, and fought his way in. Was able to liberate as many soldiers as he could, and pretty much it was all of them, and then searched and found Bucky, freed him from this like medical area, and ended up it was kind of shocked because Bucky was a little dazed and confused, but while there, that's when Steve Rogers had his first encounter with the Red Skull, who was the Hydra scientist Johann Schmidt, who took the first serum, but it affected him where his whole head and face were completely red. Then after that, and they got the soldiers back, Steve Rogers was finally able to start serving and fighting in battles and everything. So he went and kept fighting with everyone, made it a special unit called the Howling Commandos, which included Steve and Bucky Barnes and everything, and a couple other guys. And while on the mission before the last mission, Bucky and Steve ziplined into a train and were fighting, and Bucky was knocked off the train and fell into the ravine. Ends up being dead. We don't know. Then but Steve, thinking he lost his best friend, the only person that he's ever been able to call family outside of his family, and then they end up finding out where the last Hydra base is, that it's the top secret Hydra's version of Area 51, and they end up going in fighting. They the Allies take the base, but Johann Schmidt, Red Skull, gets away with this plane that has a lot of little planes where Hydra soldiers can fly to specific cities and detonate bombs, and that will annihilate the entire city that they were supposed to fly to. But Steve Rogers was able to get on the plane before it completely took off, and he fought with the Red Skull. After Red Skull tried to grab the Tesseract, it shot him into space. But Steve, after seeing that and seeing the Tesseract burn through the bottom of the plane and drop into the ocean, and being unable to stop the plane or anything because it was already had a course that was set, so he ended up knowing that there's no way to stop it. He actually crashed the plane into the ice in the Arctic. He said bye before he crashed to Peggy Carter, and because they had developed throughout the whole movie, developed relationship and feelings for each other. But after he crashed, everyone thought he was dead, and Howard Stark actually spent a really long time searching for him. Howard Stark found the Tesseract in the ocean and kept it, and him and Peggy Carter would do tests on it and everything, and had it in with them when they started S.H.I.E.L.D. and the security agency. But while they did that, 70 years later, in 2011, 2012, some team that was up in the Arctic ended up stumbling across a plane. They called in some government guys, and they actually found that it was Steve Rogers, the plane that Hydra was flying, that he had crashed into the ice. They actually found the plane, found Steve in there, and they unfroze him. And the end credit scene shows him waking up in New York, but he thought they built a set so that way he could wake up and ease into it. But he kind of was mad and broke out of there thinking he was kidnapped by Hydra. And he ran out and outside, got into Times Square, and Nick Fury came up to him and explained to him what was going on, and that's how the movie ended. It was a great movie. Steve Rogers is credited as the first Avenger. He pretty much is the first Avenger that is from the planet Earth, even though we find out later on in the MCU, in Infinity War, that Thor actually is over 1,500 years old. So technically, Thor's the first Avenger, but Steve Rogers is the first one from Earth. So I hope you liked the video. If you liked the video, hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel to be alerted to future content and future videos that has amazing content. Thank you. Have a good day, and shake